Hello, my name is Jim Fleming. I'm privileged to be asked by CMML to make some comments about some of the Asian countries where there are difficulties to enter, but opportunities that still do exist. Pakistan, fully known as the Islamic Republic of Pakistan. They do have a democratic government, but they only have one fully recognized majority religious group, and as a result the government is dominated and influenced by the Islamic thought and even theology. Can you go to Pakistan today? Yes, you can, even as a Westerner. There is no missionary visa, of course, but there are schools. In fact, one of our workers there, his wife runs a school, and she's crying out for native English speakers to come and teach in her school. There is freedom for the evangelical church to exist in Pakistan. Of course, they are ostracized. There's much prejudice against them, but the assemblies, which would be Bakht Singh assemblies, Bakht Singh is that famous Indian evangelist who planted hundreds of assemblies in India and many in Pakistan as well. And I praise God that the missionaries from England and the United States and other places that came with the assembly movement fit in with the Bakht Singh assemblies. They have a few doctrines that are a little bit different, but nothing that would divide fellowship necessarily. And these assembly missionaries showed the grace of working together and building up one movement of assemblies instead of dividing and creating different movements of assemblies. And that has been a great testimony to the work there, and I believe why the assemblies are still relatively strong in Pakistan and even growing and multiplying. Nepal has a population of about 30 million people, squeezed between India to the south and China to the north, dominated, of course, by the Himalaya mountains. It would be the Switzerland of Asia, and is a truly beautiful country. The government is communistic, but it's the Hinduism, it's the religion, it's the dominant philosophy, and it's very dark. And in Nepal, when you go to the temples there, it is a spiritual warfare of the highest degree, because it has to do with their souls, has to do with the afterlife, has to do with looking after your ancestors. And the control psychologically, religiously, and of course by demonic power is real. The freedom that exists in Nepal today may not last for too many more years. It's the time to go into Nepal. It's a time to send our people in. The evangelical movement there has grown exponentially in an amazing way. It's one of the success stories of the gospel of Asia in the last 2 or 3 decades, from less than 0.1% of evangelicals. In other words, less than 1 in 1,000. Today there are 2% evangelicals. That is a huge growth, and we praise God for it. So there may be as many as 600,000 evangelicals in the country, and the time is ripe to go in to edify and help them. Emmaus is one of those programs that is going in. So I would encourage the assemblies. Who would God raise up to send into Nepal to do a very slow work in many ways, but a very fundamental work for the establishment of the gospel, the establishment of the local assembly, so that if difficult times come again, the believers can stand strong. Laos, or some in other English-speaking circles may call it Laos. It is a country that is dominated by a government that is very strong. It controls its 7 million people. It is a country where the gospel is desperately needed. There would be about 40 or so underground assemblies in Laos. The British, New Zealand, American assembly movements had missionaries there before the war. Of course, we lost two of our dear sisters there who were martyred for the faith in Laos, and two of our men were taken captive and walked up the Ho Chi Minh Trail. The book is still available. Other missionaries were able to escape and be evacuated before the war, but they left behind this network of assemblies. So there are churches in Laos, there are assemblies in Laos, there are opportunities. To live within the country would once again only be on a tent-making humanitarian base, and even then it may be difficult how much contact is wise for the believers to have. So it would take a lot of study and a lot of investigation to find out how one could go and serve the people of Laos without actually being a threat to them as far as their freedoms. We trust that God will continue to give the Koreans and other people groups like ourselves wisdom, insights, creativity, how to reach out to these people who have so little and are being persecuted for their faith. God bless the Laotian Church.